What's happening, everybody? What's happening, everybody? So I haven't posted in a while and not even sure how many people are gonna see this, but this is more just a rant to get everything off my chest that's been brewing for some time. And this is my humble opinion on why everything is fucked royally in 2024. So the way that I see it, I'm 38 years old. I have been unsuccessfully married twice now. And I have no prospects for another relationship. I do have a daughter, which is actually the best thing that's ever happened to me. But the way that I see it, I feel like I'm living, ever since COVID, and probably even before that, I feel like I'm living in some kind of social dystopia. And there's almost like two worlds simultaneously going on. There's the world that I see when I step outside and as I drive through neighborhoods where everything seems like it's more or less normal. I see families, I see people out buying and doing stuff, and it doesn't really make sense to me. And what I mean by that is I don't really understand how people are getting by. So to give you a little background, ever since COVID, I was laid off, and from there I worked at a small startup company making chump change, making mostly sweat equity, which ended up materializing into a big fat nothing. Then I went off on my own. I started a woodworking business, and from then on, I've been pretty much struggling every month. And now I essentially work I do about 3 to 4 things for money. Wouldn't call them full-time jobs, but I was doing my business. I had another side gig, which was part of this photography kind of side hustle that I was doing. I started driving for Uber and Instacart, and then I started working at a restaurant. And the reason 2024 feels like a dystopia for me is because all I do is essentially stress about the bills that I have to pay the next month. And then as soon as the 1st or the 5th, actually, because my shop rent is due on the 5th starts, or the 5th is over, that cycle starts all over again. And the only thing I look forward to pretty much is the weekends that I get to spend with my daughter. And beside that, it seems like I'm living in some sort of nightmarish hellscape where the only thing that matters is how I can make enough money to get by. And it's, I'm super familiar with the red pill, the self-improvement, just all the kind of bullshit. And I don't know, I hate this video to be like the whole doomer mentality, but at the same time, I think I relate a lot with the kind of Gen Z doomer mentality, because I get it. Like the self-improvement, like I'm 38 years old, I'm in pretty decent shape. I can do physically probably what, not to, toot my own horn, but I feel like I'm in physically better shape than, a good percentage of the population my age. None of that shit matters. No one cares. No one gives a shit. I've done these fucking challenges where it's like I'm doing 100 pull-ups a day, 200 push-ups. No one cares. All the fucking jaw exercises, bullshit, self-improvement. It's, at the end of the day, it seems like it really kind of amounts to nothing. And, the success or the non-success with women, it's like, I've been on dating apps. I've done that whole thing, and lately it's just I don't even have a desire to start that whole cycle over again. You know, and some people might say, "Oh, well, you're giving up." And the way that I see it, I feel like our culture at large has been infected by this virus, and I'm, excuse me if I'm jumping around, but I'll just go off on this tangent. And this virus is, you know, in pop culture, they call it cancel culture. And it's essentially, you know, if you say something wrong, you know, you're canceled. And we kind of see that like on the main stage where people get, you know, raked through the coals for something they said. But I feel like in our personal relationships, this actually plays out and has a bigger effect. And I think this is something that we don't really talk about that much, but it's the mode of communication that we have with the people around us. So now largely most communication that people have with each other is on social media, or it's via text message. You know, most likely if you're talking to your friends, it's going to be over text. And I started to see this years ago, and I think this is the corrosive element of our communication that just degrades everything. And the reason it does is because it's so easy to ignore a text message, and it's so easy to essentially cut someone out, to shut someone off. Whereas if you think about the way that people communicated before, it was, you know, you would have a conversation and it would be weird. I mean, people did it, but hanging up on people wasn't really a socially acceptable thing. And you could arguably say that not responding to a text is, you know, you have more excuses. You can say, well, I didn't respond because I didn't see it, or I was busy, or blah, 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 blah. But I think relationships have suffered the most from this, because when we don't like what someone is saying, or when someone says the wrong thing, or when we get, I hate to even use the culturally modern words, but the icks or whatever it is, it's so easy to just discount that person, to move on to something we do like. And I think that is our culture today. You know, we consume media via YouTube. If we don't like a video, we switch to the next video. If we don't want to read someone's post, we don't read the post, we move on to the next thing. If we don't want to answer someone's text message, we don't answer. If we don't, and so it's gotten into this thing where our preferences for what we like and what we don't like dominate us. And I would argue that that's a very corrosive thing to society on a whole, because most relationships that you're going to be a part of long term are going to involve aspects of the relationship that are possibly uncomfortable, or that you don't really like, or someone says something and you have to work through and do some sort of conflict resolution. And we don't do conflict resolution in today's modern age. We do conflict avoidance and blocking. And you know, this even happens on the relationship level. Like, I was married, and I don't want to go too deep because I feel like it's in bad taste to disclose everything, but essentially I was just cut off, done, over, not talking. I think the phrase was used that she felt unsafe to speak to me, so the only way that we could communicate was via text. And that just blew my mind. How two adults in their 30s could come to that sort of conclusion, that that's the best way forward, to communicate exclusively through text. So back to relationships. I feel like we're in this dystopian hellscape because everything is centered on our preferences, on our likes and dislikes. And we have this paradox of choice where it seems like the pool of people is endless, but at the same time, no one seems to match the criteria that is directly suited to our preferences. And I think we're drowning collectively as a society in this overwhelming abundance of choice, but no one seems to have that perfect cocktail, perfect concoction of traits, of looks, of status, of whatever it is that the other person is looking for. And I think it's hilarious too, because if you look on most dating sites, or if you ask most people, they're going to want roughly the same things. They're going to want somebody who is conscientious, hardworking, empathetic, compassionate, takes care of themselves. Everybody wants the same shit. It's like no one asks for someone. I want someone with a short temper, who's quick to get angry, and doesn't feel for other people. And it's hilarious because at the same time, there's been, I think, just this massive amount of content flooding the internet talking about how your ex was a narcissist and how to avoid narcissists. And I think what this has done, it's actually bred this state of narcissism in it, because everybody is looking for these, red flags or these triggers to let them know if they're dealing with someone who is possibly a narcissist. And I think what it does actually is it turns them into one, because people are so guarded, people are so just strange about the way that they connect with people, that relationships, that interactions with people feel just fake. And possibly I'm in the minority, because like I said, I feel like I'm living in two different worlds where you go out and things seem almost normal, and then there's maybe this world online where there's people with similar complaints and find themselves in similar situations. And it's really hard to say. It's like, what the hell is going on? And at the end of the day too, like, I think both things can be true, because at the end of the day, I can admit that it is my fault, because it can't be anyone else's fault, right? Like I was actually thinking about this the other day, that somehow I was able to make every wrong choice that got me exactly to where I am today. And that actually really sucks. That's super painful. Because I remember as a kid, this might seem kind of weird, but the thing I wanted the most was I want a family and I want kids. I want a wife and kids. That's all I wanted. I didn't even think about, I didn't have these big ambitious dreams of a career. I just wanted, do something. But that's what I knew I wanted. And that's the one thing I don't have. And, thank God I have my daughter. But beside that, it's like, that doomer pill, I can see why so many people get trapped in it. And I do want to end it on a positive note, because I said the whole self-improvement shtick is kind of BS in my opinion, because I don't know, I feel like I could exercise, I could do all this freaking looks maxing stuff, six-pack abs, like I can do all this shit. But at the end of the day, no one's there to see it. It's like I work pretty much in solitude. I do have a few friends. My best friend lives in a different city now. But I essentially am alone for most of the week. I don't really interact with a whole lot of people other than the people that I'm directly working for, clients. And that's my life. My life is essentially stressing about how I'm going to pay the bills, being behind on bills, and doing that cycle over and over and over again. And it's like, I would love to just fucking get out of it, you know? And that's the other thing too. It's, I haven't given up. Like, I've done a bunch of shit. I'm gonna keep doing it, but it's like, I worked the service job. I still drive Uber. Sometimes I work a 10-hour day and I'll go drive a freaking Uber. I started an online Etsy store with fucking AI. I've done all the shit. And probably the solution is to just keep doing it and keep doing it consistently and don't get overwhelmed. But at the same time, it's like, it gets to a point where you just think, like, why the hell is it so hard? You know? And sometimes I look at people, and I know this is a bad and toxic problem because I am actually religious, and I think envy is a corrosive thing that us humans suffer from. But I do suffer from envy because I look at some people and think, like, what the hell? Like, why can I not just be in your shoes, right? And I know the solution is we all have our own crosses to pick up. We all have our own burdens. And some people might look at me and think, oh, I wish I was in your situation. I'm sure there's plenty of people that have it way worse than I do. But I think where I wanted to go with this video is that, yeah, it's rough out there, guys. And if you're going through it, if you're struggling, you know, financially, with the relationships, just with all the BS, I don't know what to tell you other than I think the doomer pill isn't the pill to take. You know, I kind of hate even talking about the fucking red pill, black pill. It's all kind of, I think it's these massive copes that we do. But I think hopelessness is never the answer. And so maybe that's why I wanted to make this video, just to say that, you know, it does feel hopeless sometimes, but I know it's not. I know there is joy in the simple things in life. So if you're in that boat, keep going, and I'll catch you on the next one.